Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to Warhammer 2 as the beloved sons of Bretonnia ride again with King Louen Leoncoeur and Bequis, however the hell you want to say it, the Hippogryph and his Royal Hippogryph Goon Squad fly into battle. Now, this is a unit that I've been trying out a lot over the last several days. It's a unit that, before that, for the last year and a half, I really hadn't used very much at all. Shock cavalry, shock flying units, basically, that will completely shish kebab cavalry or infantry if they get a rear charge off. They are very expensive, and they have a kind of low armor for such an expensive unit that has such a big hitbox. That 90 armor was kind of an issue for them and has been in the meta for a very long time. It means they can actually kind of get focus fire down by missiles relatively easily, especially alongside how big their hitbox is. But they're a unit that really, the reason they weren't seen very often for a long time was the way they charged in. They would not really work very well as a cohesive fighting force in that 2 or 3 models would charge in and go at a single entity and hit, and the rest would kind of shamble around aimlessly and miss their charge bonus and gallivant off into other infantry units to get tied down, and their mass wasn't quite high enough to then pull out, and they would just get kind of dragged down into the muck and murdered. And that's not really what you want to see from a 2,000 gold unit, but they've been buffed, I believe, in their mass and their ability to charge into single entities, and so they are much more cohesive. They're much more organized when they fight, and that is what you would expect from elite shock flyers like these guys are. So, I mean, they've got an amazing stat line. They do a ton of damage. It's what you'd like to see, and I've had a lot of success with them recently. They've been doing a lot of work for me. We'll see how they do in this battle. We also have the companions on my left flank and the Knights of the Lion-Hearted over there. And before we get too much into army compositions, I want to just take a look back here and look at these Zentler's Reichsguard. Amazing looking unit, really good, immune to psych, high stats across the board, really high armor at 120, just like their Reichsguard counterparts. But the issue I had this battle was that I didn't know they were there. You can see, if we're looking at the mini-map up top, this is something that I actually use very often. I'll put a unit kind of in the corner of the mini-map and you can't actually see them. And the issue with that is, if I just turn my camera around, those guys are straight up dead. Hippogryph Knights, King Louen, Sword of Couronne, and 2 Cav just charge in, and they're dead in seconds and rounded off the map and gone for good. Instead, I never turned my camera around. They're not hidden right now, and that means that they can come in to be a force in this battle and kind of be an issue for me in my back line. So we'll see how that progresses. So for the rest of my infantry build, foot squires, a lot of peasant bowmen because they are super cost efficient and good for killing handgunners, and some spearmen men-at-arms, and some peasant mob who are at 100 gold, really good chaff for just blocking charges and being annoying in general. For the Empire line, of course, some Demigryph Knights with halberds. They're a huge threat for Royal Hippogryph Knights and for King Louen. Gonna have to be very cautious of where they are. Halberds, spears, handguns, and Karl Franz with Gal Moraz backed up by a Lore of Life mage. We both have Lore of Life. If you're going to invest in Royal Hippogryph Knights, I think you really want to have healing. It's just one of those units that if they're going to have 2,000, you're going to have a 2,000 gold unit on the field, you need to make sure you get your investments and your money's worth out of that. And so healing is the best way to do that. Same thing with those the Demigryph Knights with halberds. You want to make sure that they get some regrowths and Earthbloods going their way so they can really stick it out and fight in high pressure situations. Great swords and the Hammer of the Witches, really good choice against Bretonnia, and some more halberds out on the flanks. So, let's get into the battle here and see how things progress. So the Hammer of Witches right now is focusing down on peasant bowmen. That's kind of annoying, but they're, at the end of the day, 450 gold. It's not very expensive. So, seeing them die, not really the biggest deal ever. And the handgunners are going to open fire. And of course, we have some very good targets to be shooting down, sniping down with our peasant bowmen. Now, they're going to get torn up a bit by this cannon fire and by the handgun fire if we get a little bit too close. But of course, we can fire over the top of our peasant mob, let them kind of absorb these really powerful gunpowder shots. They're going to kind of tear them up. And then the peasant bowmen can do what they do best, which is snipe out the handgunners and allow my cavalry and my Hippogryph Knights to kind of move in unimpeded. So we're going to get some good shots in early on. My cavalry still in the back, making sure to stay out of range of that very scary Hammer of the Witches, which is a huge bonus for Slarge, which is going to be very scary, actually, for the Royal Hippogryph Knights in particular. So you can see I'm kind of skirting around the flank right now, making sure that he doesn't have line of sight on them, using those trees for cover, and getting some good shots in with the peasant bowmen right now. So yeah, these handguns are taking some shots. Peasant bowmen, they're definitely dropping, and actually move them up a little bit too far right now, and they're getting shot as well. But the peasant mob are going to tie down a lot of stuff, and that handgunner unit is already dead. Now, issue Zintler's Reichsguard are coming. I still don't think I've seen them at this point, and if they get straight into my back line, then that means peasant archers are dead. I should probably have one of these units directly behind them, just in case for something like that, but really it's just more about map awareness in general, and there's no excuse to not know they're on the map now, because if you look at the mini-map once, you can see that big old red dot, and that means the Zintler's Reichsguard are coming. So, Royal Hippogryph Knights and Louen, the beloved sons, moving in right now, and they've got plenty of good targets to go for. We could back charge the back line here, we could rat off these handgunners, make sure they shatter, which will be important, or we could go for some of the cavalry, and we are going to get a very nice charge into the flank of these handguns, but kind of get stopped actually. Got a little bit mucked up by some of these other swordsmen, and so we're not going to get the full charge bonus off, and that means we won't be able to shut down the Hammer of the Witches quite as nicely either. But check this baby out. Royal Hippogryph Knights into the flank, King Louen as well. That should be a terror rout very soon. This is the kind of engagement they thrive in, and these elite Hippogryph Knights will definitely get a lot of kills if they keep that kind of cycle charging up. Only got 4 on that one, but it will cause the terror rout, and they're going to start running. Now back here, bigger issue. My companions, 1,500 gold. They're actually the exact same price as Grail Knights. They're going to be charging directly into handgun fire, and so that's a good move. I mean, the Demigryph Knights are close by, but I've got the speed to strike and then pull away and go somewhere else. Maybe then go into the other handgunners. But check this out, and I'm not going to lie, this pissed me off. Life Mage charges in, and 3 models maybe, hit him. Entire unit stops dead, and I stop looking at them for just a second, and that gives the Demigryph Knights their time to charge in, and I'm going to lose my companions as he gets a beautiful handgun volley into the flank of my questing knights, and they're going to go down. They are not going to get a single kill this battle. The Demigryph Knights are going to chew them up, and I'm going to lose 1,500 gold for free. Not fun. Not enjoyable at all. I honestly think that a single entity like that should not be able to stop the full impetus of a cavalry charge that easily, but it was still my micro mistake for allowing that to happen. I should have noticed they got mucked up and then pulled away and gone somewhere else, and instead I'm going to lose 1,500 gold, get literally no value out of that unit, and that's not a great way to start a battle. So I've had a couple mistakes here. It happens with Bretonnia, it happens with any faction. I'm not a perfect player by any means, so not good. The Zintler's Reichsguard did get some big kills in my back line, killed a unit of peasant bowmen, and my Hippogryph Knights and Louen tried to tie him down. And so this cav unit is going to get away, actually. Very nice move from my opponent here, and he'll go for another target. And meanwhile, Karl Franz and Galmaraz kind of in a scary position right now, and we can maybe surround him and kill him, but I don't want to focus too heavily on Franz because he is going to be tough to bring down, and that would allow the handgunners and the Hammer of the Witches to get some really good shots in. Earthblood going to heal up everything here, and I see these high value stuff in the back, and of course Hippogryph Knight charge into that, and look at that damage output. It is glorious. They got about 30 kills on that charge, and getting rid of the handgunners is going to be a very high priority. King Louen and a sort of Corone pop in the center, doing a lot of damage to Franz here. He does have stand your ground pop, and melee defense is going to be an issue. And I noticed again, he is going for more of my peasant bowmen with the Zintler's Reichsguard. He's been using them very well so far. So I'm going to need to pull my Knights of the Lionhearted back and tie them down, and definitely bring the Hippogryph Knights back as well, because we need this cab unit dead. And it's one of those things where if I just turn my camera around at the start of the battle, I would have been like, oh wow, that's a cab unit that should be dead and off the field right at the start. It was honestly a mistake of my opponent to put him there, because he would not have been able to escape. But I didn't punish him for it, and now they're up to 110 kills, and I've generated a lot of value for the Empire. So I have pulled back a lot of these peasant bowmen to kind of create a second bastion, and charging forward with the Knights of Lionhearted right now. Unfortunately, I have not shut down that Hammer of the Witches. Haven't really had free cav to do so yet. And the Zintler's Reichsguard are finally dead now. Infantry line crumbling a bit, but it's Bretonnia. We've invested very little in that fight anyway. Foot Squires are going to be losing to the Great Swords out on that flank. And King Louen charging forward right now and into the Hammer of the Witches. And Bakis is going to start ripping them up. Now, handgunner fire, armor piercing is going into his flank, so we'll need to pull away, but I'm not too worried about him. And we're getting some good more charges into the handgunners, and we can maybe get one more into this unit. But the Demigryphs are patrolling. They're very close by. Knights of the Lionheart are getting a charge into the flank of those halberds in the back. And finally, I'm going to say that's a very scary unit, and it's very close. Time to pull away and go for something else. So one of the most important things about a unit like this, you got to keep them mobile. If they get tied down, they can get destroyed by all that AP. A lot of halberds, a lot of bonus versus large, a lot of armor-piercing missile fire. So we need to keep them moving, keep them cycle charging, and keep using that terror to its fullest potential. Some nice charges coming in from the Knights of the Lionhearted, up to 50 kills now. Swordsmen in my back line, pushing back a lot of these guys, and we're going to create that enfilade fire where we keep one archer going that way, one archer going that way, one archer going that way, and that will allow us to kind of focus fire and hit the back and the flanks of that swordsman unit, get them off the field relatively early. Hippogryph Knights still cycling, but Louen is in a very scary position right now. Demigryph Knights and Franz on top of him. And he's got 470 weapon strength. A lot of that is AP. King Louen will take a beating if he sticks around too long. Thankfully, he has a lot of mass. It's one of the best things about this Hippogryph and that regen. So, gonna finally pull away, and he's gonna be safe. Hippogryph Knights up to 82 kills now. They've done a lot for me so far. And this swordsman got completely isolated, and we're going to punish that pretty heavily here with a rear charge from the Knights of the Lionhearted. But I'm going to pull most of my stuff out and try to just, you know, reset the engagement. Rethink about how I want to get into this fight here. That was a really limp dick charge. My Knights, please, what are you doing? They just stopped dead. I don't know what the deal with that is. I usually have a ton of success with my Knights. I haven't had a great success with them so far, but we've got plenty of time to turn this around in my favor. Little bit in the Empire's favor right now, but with all this focus fire coming in and the kills coming in from the Knights of the Lionhearted, should be able to rout those swordsmen relatively easily. Back here, Hippogryph Knights terror routing a lot of these swordsmen here, and King Louen still doing what he can, charging around in the back, and gotta keep him moving. Gotta make sure he doesn't get tied down, because if Demis get us round off and Franz gets Karl Franz into him with that plus 16 bonus versus large, Louen will drop super quick. Again, strike, pull out, and look for something else. And that Jade Wizard is looking like a scrumptious target in the back line. And his Hippogryph, it should only take like 5 attacks or so to kill him. And it's actually only going to be 1 attack before he's terrified. I need to chase this off the field, because that health, all that regen he can kind of bring and imbue into his back line and to his demis is not something I want to deal with. So, unfortunately, the terror route's not going to last very long. King Louen misses his charge, and the Jade Wizard will get back to safety near Karl Franz and the Demigryph Knights with halberds. So, we're in a position now where King Louen is still in good shape. He's got 31 kills, he's regenerating a lot of his health, and we've got Lore of Life so that those Hippogryph Knights, who've lost half their models so far, could still get a lot of their health back with a nice regrowth. But handgun fire is arcing into them right now, and we are going to line up a glorious charge. We didn't go for it. Honestly, I think I maybe should have. The halberds were not focusing that way. King Louen getting in there, and those claws and beaks are going to rip them up. Just completely eviscerate the stuff back here. And another nice charge, going to make sure these great swords do not come back to the fight. Again, I don't know what my cav is doing. These charges are not really what I want to see out of them. But regardless, they're still up to 126 kills, so it's not like they've been doing bad for me. And King Louen, gonna go for those handgunners, make sure they're gone. I've had to rout them off like 6 times. Finally, I'm going to have to commit my Royal Hippogryph Knights and tie down these demis. If I didn't do this here, they would be able to charge down all my archers, and there's just no way to win the game if I lose my archers here. But with the Royal Hippogryph Knights tying them down and then getting shots into their rear, it might just be enough to bring them down low and allow Louen to finish him off once he's done with his escapade over on my left flank. Now, this is not going to be a good fight for the Hippogryph Knights. They're an amazing unit if they can get into the right target. They're very expensive, so are the demis, but when they've got this many models hitting and surrounding each of my elite flying cavalry, they're going to drop. And so I am going to lose this fight here, but it's just buying time at this point. And we are generating a lot of value. They had 114 kills. Now they're tying and doing a lot of damage to the demis and allowing my peasant bowmen to do what they need to do, which is fire into their rear. At the end of the day, though, they have 125 armor. They're very tanky, and they are supported by Earthblood, so they are going to get free, and we didn't do quite as much damage there as I would have liked, and that means Demigryph Knights are now coming up, and we have nothing in the back line to protect them, except King Louen, who needs to get his ass over here and save his peasants, his poopy pants peasants, or we're going to be in a world of trouble. Knights of the Lionhearted still doing a lot of stuff for me back here, making sure those handgunners break and shatter, finishing off some more swordsmen, and generating a lot of value back there. Demigryph Knights are so close to routing. If King Louen can get here in time, they'll be gone. But Franz is also an issue as well, and Karl Franz will start decapitating all my peasants back here. And my Life Mage, also kind of in a very precarious position. Bringing down these demis with Karl Franz support is going to be very tough. Stand Your Ground has popped. Means these Demigryph Knights are going to be very hard to bring down. But Sword of Couronne going down as well. It's a big debuff. The Lion's Shield also getting popped. And this is going to be kind of where the battle is decided. If we can finish off these demis, we have a chance to isolate the life mage back there, kill off the Hammer of the Witches, and all that. If we can't kill him off, though, if King Louen drops here, this game is going to be over. And Karl Franz will drop his Galmoraz, 40% damage on his melee output, and he gets that Reikland Runefang, and that 16 bonus force large against Louen. Scary, and I decide I have to run away and kind of sack my Peasant Bowman here and realize that there are bigger threats, and those are the demis right now. I need to make sure they're gone. I can't afford to focus Karl Franz right now, because with that bonus force large up, he's too scary. Look at these guys, man. Just killing everything in the back lines for me. This whole time, up to 173 kills now, and looks like my life mage on her last legs, and I don't know how long for this world she's going to be, but the demis are again isolated. Again, we're going to have some chances to charge in, and King Louen can get some really nice kills here, finish them off, and they're going to rout. And one more Hippogryph is in there too. One more, but he's not long for this world either. So at this point in the battle, we got one more charge into the back to try to get to the Hammer of the Witches. We're going to pull away, and again, maybe kill some of these swordsmen and that spearman who's kind of just been completely forgotten about. But back here, Karl Franz and Louen fighting it out. My last Royal Hippogryph Knight did die. We're going to charge, and King Louen making his last stand. And he is actually going to be able to finish off this unit of Demigryph Knights with halberds. We still have some Peasant Bowmen too, firing in from the flank. Karl Franz still there though. He's got 2,000 health left, and he is such an issue every time his buffs are up. Honestly, at this point, I probably should have stayed in there. I have more, actually, I'm surprised about that. Karl Franz actually has more damage, even when his stuff isn't popped. He's got 470 weapon strength. King Louen only has 450. But looking at the stats, that could have gone either way. I'm not actually sure if I should have stayed in that fight. But regardless, I am going to pull away and get some more regen and hope that Karl Franz runs away and maybe we can get a strike at him in the rear or something. But at this point, balance bar pretty heavily in the Empire's favor. It's not over yet. There are a couple attacks from a complete chain route. Louen has that kind of output where he can really make you sad if he charges in from behind, causes that terror route. I mean, this Hippogryph, it knows how to snack on stuff, that's for sure. And these Empire state troops are going to be a feast. They're going to be tasty treats for him to munch on. And we're going to double fast forward and see how this plays out. So I've still got that cav in the back, and I don't have really any time to sit around and waste, because I need to charge in. The Hammer of the Witches getting more shots in. Got up to 76 kills, and this will be the last engagement right here. We're going in for it now. I gotta snipe out Franz. If I can't, this battle is completely over, and it's already looking pretty bleak. Karl Franz getting in there. King Louen getting in there. Empire of Man versus Bretonnia. Who can pull this one out? Nice rear charge, but the spearmen were braced and ready for it, and it just isn't going to be enough. Louen getting a couple more strikes in, spearmen charging in as well, but at the end of the day, Karl Franz and the Empire will hold with not very much of their army left, but it will be enough. And one poor, unfortunate state troop getting tossed into the skies, pancaked on the ground. But a really fun battle, couldn't quite pull it out. Very well played to my opponent, he did really well. And he used his Demigryph Knights and his Zintler's Reichsguard super well. Honestly, God, I just wish I had turned my camera around. I could have killed this Zintler's Reichsguard so easy. And honestly, I think if they die right at the start of the battle, I just outright win. Definitely had some mistakes that game. The biggest one, well, the biggest issue I had this battle was those Questing Knights going down with 0 kills. That's a big problem. You cannot let that happen with a 1500 gold unit. It's just so much value that just disappears into thin air. And you're not going to be able to pull that back super easy. At the end of the day, though, that Life Mage charging in was a super smart idea from Jack. And the fact that he was able to block an entire cav charge from coming in, like, it's a little bit crazy, but it's been an issue in Total War for a very long time. I don't like sticky units that one single entity manages to pull the entire cav unit into attacking them. It really sucks. I think maybe if guard mode had been on my cav, that wouldn't have been such an issue. But yeah, that was a big problem. A big problem indeed, and the demis kind of munched on them because they didn't get their charge bonus off. Peasant Bowmen did plenty of work for me. Definitely generated a lot of value there. And the Hippogryph Knights got 2 chevrons that battle, which is no joke. They did a lot of killing, and they killed a lot of demis too. But was not quite enough. I will say, Bretonnia is, they're maybe mid to lower tier in the entire faction ranking. system, but they're a good faction, and when you micro them well, they can match up really well against a lot of really good factions. Again, a lot of the elves, some of the best factions in the game, Wood Elves, High Elves, and Dark Elves. I think Bretonnia has an even or very advantageous matchup against all three of those factions. Against Empire, I think it can be tough, but they definitely have the tools to deal with them. Hippogryph Knights, I don't know if I'd recommend them too often in this matchup in particular because they have so many cheap armor-piercing tools and the demis that will just munch them for dinner, but they can be really good against like greenskins and factions that are more susceptible to terror routing than the Empire. They still did a lot of work for me though, for sure, and supported by Flesh to Stone and Earthblood, a couple regrowths. They were a lot of fun to use this battle, and over the last 2 or 3 days, I'd say I'm probably like 8-1, 9-1 with Bretonnia, but a lot of them have kind of been stomps, and I mean, again, I know that you guys sometimes like to see those stomps, but at the end of the day, I think it's one of those things where it can be good to get some losses in here, and I think there are plenty of lessons to learn from this one in terms of my play. Map awareness is a really important component of Total War, and it kind of slipped this battle, for sure. And the Empire player punished me really nicely, and played really well, and deserved the win. So hope you guys enjoyed that game, and I'll be bringing you many more battles very soon. And we're getting up to Christmas, so the videos might drop off a teeny bit, but I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen, and I'll stockpile as much footage as I can before the holidays, and right after Christmas, we'll be going hard as well. Plenty more cool stuff coming outside multiplayer battles, maybe an overview for SFO, maybe some more top 10, top 15 lists, that kind of stuff. Stick around, lots of good stuff coming your way. Peace out. A-Town.